welcome to another exciting show. And we've got our regular Deborah Singleton, and kicking and screaming, we've dragged her on. It's Deborah Hatswell, who's one of the leading authorities on Bigfoot. So all the people that got corn plasters on their feet and suffering from bad feet will be listening in tonight and thoroughly disappointed because you're not a chiropodist. You're talking about Bigfoot, the hairy person, not a Millwall supporter, but a big hairy ape thing type creature that has an increasing number of sightings.
Bigfoot's going to write in, isn't he, Deb? He's going to write in and say, "I am appalled."
Yes. Yes, he might drag me off. You never know.
You never know. I'm filming it if he does.
Yeah.
But it's a part 1 and there's a part 2 next week, and we're hoping to get Shannon on next week, and we'll be talking about disappearances, human disappearances, as well as we're not blaming Bigfoot. Now, first of all, I was going to do some call outs, but there's nobody, as far as I know, that's Tom and Dick. So we're all healthy this week, which is pretty good, isn't it? I don't know if Colin was a bit, or Sebastian.
It's been nice weather.
In nice weather. He was a bit Tom and Dick, but I think he might have cheered up by now. So there we go. So now I don't think there's anybody else, any call outs to do. And probably I promised someone that I'd do a call out, but I've completely and utterly forgotten because I've got a memory like a goldfish. So there we go. So
Chris, right now.
Yes, I should do that. Now, first of all, as you know, I know it's a bit sad. I do live in Hertfordshire, which is the central of Fockham Hall in Hertfordshire, I have to say, the smallest country in the world.
Yes.
And I believe there are strange sightings around the Hertfordshire, Essex, and that sort of area. But first, you've actually had a new person coming because you are a leading expert, Deb, on.
Wouldn't say that.
But strange creatures that people are increasingly seeing. And I know that Cannock Chase is notorious, and there's places in Scotland. But there's also people that seen them in Epping Forest, I know for a fact. And you sent me some reports, and I know that Cornwall seems to be a hot spot as well. But there's places like Tunbridge Wells, highly populated areas.
Like lots of highly populated areas. Yeah. I know. It seems very strange, doesn't it?
It does seem yes.
But if you think of it in a way, Chris, as we live in a little conurbation, and then we have like the green belt, and then we have the next town. And as we expand those towns in, we leave very narrow little corridors, and we theorize that that's how they're moving around.
Yes.
Well, my theory, and you might be able to prove me wrong or whatever, all right, is I think they are from a different dimension, and we're overlapping, because I think we do have there's different states, different dimensions, and that. And I know I'm probably going off on a different tangent, but we did have a show once about time slips and things like that. I think that's probably linked, because I know that when we did a show with yourself, the one that you saw, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to be sort of fascinated and put its hand out, as I say.
No, it didn't put its hand out.
Did it put its hand out? But it seemed to be fascinating, did it? Fascinated with
what? It seemed like as shocked and as confused as I was, like just it was kind of slack-jawed is the only way I could put it. No, it didn't reach out or anything. It just leant out.
Sorry, that was probably somebody else I'm getting confused. But I think that I know that there was there's photographs in the early Edwardian, late Victorian times in Cornwall, and there's snow down there, and you see his footprints went for miles over roofs and everywhere. That's a complete mystery. And of course, similar to the Loch Ness Monster, there is a monster off the coast of Cornwall that people occasionally see. And I can't remember the name. It starts with M, I think, Mogwith or something like that.
I don't know the name of it. There's the Owlman. There's also the Owlman of Mornan in Cornwall. Wherever you go, Chris, whether it's the top of Scotland to the tip of England's toe, there is a cryptid report of some kind, whether that be an ape man, a dog-like creature, a reptilian of some kind. There's no real hotspots anymore because more and more people come forward and report, and that fills out the areas on the map, so you can actually see little roots farming and things like that. And as we said, we looked at Herefordshire, central Herefordshire. We don't have any real Bigfoot or wild man reports, but there is a strange bird man, and we'll, as you say, we're going to talk about that later on.
Okay.
Almost moth man like creature. But there are 7 reports like that in the UK.
Yeah.
But sorry, you said Herefordshire. It's Hertfordshire. People often get confused with Hertfordshire.
I'm northern. I'm sorry. I don't know anywhere past the Midlands. Yeah, it's all the same to me.
I'm a bit baffled when I go anything past Watford. Is passport. That's right. It's a bit. I need a passport to get up.
I also get to Kiel, then I'm done.
Yeah. Here, you know, we get out the bath to do a wee and that type of thing. And
bath. We don't have baths.
So pardon when breaking wind loudly. That's the sort of thing. You know, we are posh. But should we have a quick shufty in chat before we get?
Oh, Joe's in. I can see Joe and Ralph. And I've seen Robbie earlier.
Yeah. So we got man with a pan. Oh, some bacon sandwiches, please. That's nice.
Yep.
It's definitely not Mark.
Hang on, we got VXRHSV.
Okay.
Careful, you might summon a demon.
And then we got
Joe.
Hello, Joe. And
Hello, Joe.
Oh, hello, we got Bob. Hello, Bob.
Rugby.
Bob Hollyoak. I think you're in America, aren't you? Alabama, am I correct there?
Rugby.
Sorry? Oh, rugby. So I get muddled up. I always get muddled up.
I do the same.
And there's a chap with a name in Alabama.
Richard, yeah.
Richard, you moved to Alabama to help me through. That way you can get it right. So, you know. Sorry, mate. Yes, you're in rugby, aren't you? By the way, how was Bulgaria? Was it all right? Yeah. It sounds because you went on holiday there, didn't you?
He did.
Nice. Yeah.
Ralph's Marg. I don't even know how you pronounce that. Margar,
yeah.
Well, hang on.
Meaning sea giant in Cornish is a sea serpent that purportedly inhabits the sea near Falmouth Bay, Cornwall, England.
Like a kelpie.
Yeah.
The Mogwai. Oh, hang on. Here he comes. Hang on, I got you here.
Back in the day, there was a legend on Loch Ness, and it was said that a witch summoned, and they called it the kelpie, the water horse. Before we called it the Loch Ness monster, it had the same name as the things that are seen out at sea that can come up onto land. And there's a name that I can never remember. It's not kelpie, it's a different name, and I think it's from the south of England.
Right.
And it's almost dragon-like, not with wings and blowing, most, you know, like serpent but with legs kind of thing. I can't recall the name of it. It won't come to me. And they were said to come up on land and take sheep and villages and all kinds of stuff. And they have exactly the same myth, fable, what do we call it, on the west coast of the Mediterranean. Exactly the same. And it said that they beat the Romans by coming up and stealing all the sheep that the armies brought with them. And it's actually written in their law and text from centuries ago, these water dragons that would come up on land.
Wow.
And also in Mexico.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know about those, Chris.
Flying beast, which goes down and attacks animals, and it attacked a police officer.
Oh, right.
That was about 15 years ago. And you could see his car that was damaged by this, whatever it was.
Right.
In there as well.
That rings a bell, actually,
yeah. I think I know. I think it's Lake R, Swamp or Lake, something like that. ORE it's called.
Yeah.
Now it says here, Louise Wilcox. Hello, everyone. Glad to see you escaped YouTube jail, Chris. Yes, I was very naughty. We were saying, wasn't we? You're okay, Deb, but Deb and Deb Singleton, myself, and we were very naughty, and we went against their standards. So they booted us off for a week. And I'm still, by the way, thank you everybody last week. I was on my own doing the show, and I'm looking for another platform because I think it's only a question of time before YouTube's going to boot me off here and take the whole channel down. And that's why I'm doing soft, shall we say, fluffy bunny and dancing hamster type shows. So we're not going to be a lot of information. I don't being rude to you, Deb, but you know what I mean?
No, what you mean.
Because what they booked us off for was just ridiculous. And I've looked through it again. It was just, that was HSP about highly sensitive people. I still can't see why. We don't really go at medicine, but anyway, we won't keep on about that. But I am looking at possibly doing another show on a Thursday on a different platform, and it looks very much like it might be Rumble that I'll probably be going over to. So,
I don't know that one. I'll join you. Yeah, I didn't know that one. I do BitChute.
Oh, I'm BitChute. Yes, I've got this show has been downloaded to BitChute the next day because for some unknown reason. YouTube will not allow you to download it until the very next day.
Yeah, I have the same trouble, but I hadn't heard of Rumble. I shall come along and subscribe.
Well, the thing is that there's Rumble, there's Bits Eon, was it Bright Eon, which is...
I'm on that one, yeah.
Yeah, but I went on to brand YouTube, but the big problem with that is that people go on there to see Dr. Coleman and a few others, and it's a cul-de-sac, and then you've got about one person look at it.
You got to start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere.
So someone's there, and Odyssey I've given up with because they won't let me load up anymore for some unknown reason. So, and BitChute you can't do live because the show is the chat room. The show is live, and with Rumble, yes, we've got a chat room, and there's another one, DTube. As a chat.
Right. No, I don't know that one.
Going over to YouTube. So there's because I think it's Mike Adams. I think runs the Bit Eon, Bright Eon, and I'm not sure if it's the Mike Adams of Natural News. I think it is, but I don't know. But I'm thinking about this all the time, and also instead of Facebook, using Gab. Because Gab, you've got free speech on there, and it's very good. So these things, but the trouble with Rumble, as they said, they're going to be looking at doing similar to YouTube, I believe, where you can have it free. But at the moment you've got to pay, and if you've got to pay, then I've got to always have lots of adverts through the show, and also sort of try and raise money to pay for it, which I don't like doing that much. But that's
I know.
But thank you, everybody. I'm still looking at your suggestions from last week. And I can't thank you enough. And if you've got any further suggestions of where I'll go, politely, all is now. Should we do a little bit more in chat, or should we go over to the main topic?
Can I just answer 2 questions that I've had in chat that have come up? One is Paul. Hiya, Paul. I'm sorry we didn't meet up when we were in Wales. I was looking forward to meeting you. Hopefully, serendipity will happen, and I'll get to meet you again. Richard, I know the wood that you're talking about, and if you email me, I've probably got around 6 sightings from around that area itself. I think I even know the guy that you've had a conversation with, to be honest, but I don't want to say it out loud on YouTube. So please drop me an email and we can have a chat about it. You're talking about Grove Woods. Deb will know where I mean in a second. Not too far from Salisbury Plain, where the army people actually saw what they described, Chris, as a 7-foot-tall, reddish-coloured Bigfoot, 8-man, wild man type of thing. And he was actually up in a tank when he saw it. It just crossed the field. They were doing exercises. So you have a look around, and the very first report of a wild man down there comes way back in about the 6th or 7th century. And then we go to about 2016, when the latest one was, 2016, 2018. So consistently, over that period of time, people have witnessed a figure, and in one case, 2 figures, crossing from one woodland to another, doing exactly the same thing, just keeping not eye contact with the humans, almost like the humans were not there, or they were in, just insignificant. And they crossed what I would call it the military of defence land. And obviously we know, because of the work that we do, that lots of strange cryptid reports take place on military of defence land, or government land, or land cited as a special scientific interest, which basically means Joe Public cannot go in there and investigate.
Yeah.
We have numerous reports. One very rare report, a wild man sat down eating meat, and that's in one of the SSIs. And when that report came out, it was not an area of scientific study. When it made it into the newspapers, within 12 months, it became a private wood, which was you couldn't enter it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the one report that made me, way back in the day, start thinking, hang on, does our government know? Yeah. Am I out here and they just know and they're just not, they're covering it up all the time? Yeah. And obviously, between now and then, me and Deb ourselves have spoken to people where they've seen entire teams go in camo.
Yeah.
So it's not just when you get a witness report, it isn't just that little case. It's everything that goes on in the area around it can kind of clue you in, because you want to be hearing howls or screams. You want to be finding footprints. If we're saying it's a physical flesh and blood, we should be finding those things. And if we're saying it's dimensional, we should be getting reports of other dimensional incidents as paranormal, UFO, whatever name you want to put on it.
Yeah.
And that tallies. Where you get a cryptid report, you get those other, what I would call para around the subject reports. Yeah. And I had a lot of stick back in the day when people said to me, no, you can only put Bigfoot reports on the map. No, I can't. I can put whatever I want on the map. A, it's my map. And B, if we're saying it's a corporeal animal, we need to be proving it. Yeah. We need to be getting reports from people where they're seeing this animal. Are we getting bear reports coming in? Big black cat reports coming in? Because that would tell me that there is enough food source in the area to sustain something that was an ape-type predator.
Yeah.
We want to be hearing from people saying that maybe things have been thrown at them in the woods, or they've got that feeling of being, intense feeling of being watched.
Yes.
Because all of that comes hand in hand with the cryptid report. But if you don't know about cryptids, it goes right to the paranormal. So it's a paranormal event that happened. So me and Deborah are always kind of trying to find the balance. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why we say we don't know. Until we sit down with them, we honestly don't know what they are. We have to look at every single theory of what they possibly can be.
Just going back to you saying about woodland becoming private. And I noticed it when I went to Grimsby this time. You remember the report of the 2 deer legs in the road near the airport?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Further up from that, there was a little woodland with a stile you could get across and have a walk in it. It's only less than a mile from the airport. Now, it's a private woodland. They've put a fence straight across. Private woodland, trespassers keep out.
It used to shock me, and now it's. I used to get members that had messaged me, Deb, and they'd give me a sighting report. And then maybe 18 months later, they'd message. Etsy Woods is one prime example. There's nothing out there. I don't understand why they would class it as scientific interest. There's no rare plants, no rare trees, no rare anything. It's this little scrap of woodland. But it's a very important choke point in when you look at a map, you see it flat, don't you? But when you look at topography, you can see the choke points. And early humans would hunt on those choke points. So they were areas of. So you could probably see I'll do the roll motion in a minute. You can see the deer coming through, and this is where the camp's set up. And this is a prime example. Paul Green's just mentioned the roll, the murderer in the northeast of England.
Yes.
There is a police officer who says that they followed a heat signature on Fleur for several hours through the woods overnight, thinking that it was Moat, and he was caught in a different area, and he'd already shot himself and he was dead. So what had they followed? Yeah. And they said whatever it was at utmost stealth. So they presumed it was a man who'd been out there all his life and knew how to hide in the woods. I think it was a man that had been out there all his life, but it wasn't a human man.
No.
That story got covered up. It's gone.
It's always covered up. But what I'm interested in is that these Ministry of Defence sites, military people, when they report these things, they stand a risk of being ridiculed and laughed at. And it's a bit like UFO reports with pilots and that. RAF pilots, they won't report it because they'll be jeered at in the officers' mess and things like that. So really, if you look at it from, say, a creature's point of view, it would probably be better to hide out in a military defence area, because there's nobody going to bother you apart from the occasional tanks and exercises. But there is a theory, I don't know if you've heard of this, and I don't know too much about it, is that, now, I'm not saying I believe it or disbelieve it. This is just
out there,
which I was told. And again, it's a bit sort of, people in chat will probably know more about it, in that governments, or shall we say the secret governments, are in touch with another portal. And there's sacrifices, hence World War One, World War Two. And these, whatever it is, they want these sacrifices.
Right.
Would it be that there's more sightings? I don't know, in military defence areas. I don't know. It's a bit loose, that one, but that's what I was told. So I don't know.
There is some context to it, though, isn't there, Deb, with the super soldier?
Yeah.
You seem to get, Chris, when reports come in, they'll either say it was very, very Bigfoot-like, so obviously like an ape with a big shoulder, or you'll get the caveman description. And then on the dogman side of things, you'll get your typical hammer house. So it's got a tail, it's got backward legs, the whole thing that you get with a canine. And then you have the wolf-headed men. So we're like a dog's head, and we've got this
dogman,
a male body that's covered in hair. But in between that, there's this almost super soldier that most witnesses describe as pure black, like the blackest of black, blacker than the night itself. That's incredibly muscular, weaponized hands was one description I was told.
Yeah.
That can move within stealth and almost cloak itself. That sounds incredibly military to me.
Yes.
If we'd looked at RFL Alcambra from the 1970s till the base basically ended, there have been reports of an upright standing wolf. The Americans that were on the base reported it, and Brits that were on the base reported it. And I don't think anybody's ever applied under the Freedom of Information Act for those actual witness reports. But that's very rare where you hear one in the army that's actually out there. And we only know about it because as they went back to America, they started to share the stories amongst themselves. And it's described as a standing wolf. So it's completely hair covered, up on two legs like a human man. And in every single one of the cases, it made off to the north of the base. And at the north of the base is a woods called Monk's Wood, which is now an area of special scientific interest. And it adds a nature reserve. And you'll find that a lot with MOD land, that around them, there will be a lot of nature reserves or areas that are important to them. Is that, I'm just going to put it out there, is that to stop people seeing them?
Possibly.
Do not come on this land. We're not allowed on it because it's owned by the government, and you guarantee within 5 minutes someone will pull up in a Jeep. Yeah. Or B, there's a lot of like dangerous places to be on a military defence exercise ground. You don't want to get caught out there when they start having exercises.
And not only that, 5 rounds that are still on the ground.
All of that. Do you remember the television programme, Chris, The Krypton Factor?
Yes, yes.
And the assault course that they had on it. Well, that assault course is at the top of the River Irwell, not too far from where I live. And we have one soldier who made 2 reports from that actual army base. Good. They were actually on exercises. It was winter. They were him and his mate were laid down in the grass in full camo on the perimeter. So they're perimeter guards. And they sense this thing coming towards them, and he said, I don't think it could see us. I think it suddenly reared as if it smelt them or something, but they're there in complete camo, so it's understandable. Yeah. And he said the absolute worst thing about it was they had to redo that 6 weeks later, and it happened again. And he was with a woman this time. So the first time it happened when he was with a male guard, they both were absolutely terrified and just bunked in. But when it happened with her, completely different reaction. She chased uphill after it. She wanted to catch him. And it went up Alcombe Hill. And I can tell you, Alcombe Hill's like that. Yeah. And he said it never missed a stride. It was full of snow. It was frosty and it was slippery. And it were up that hill and just gone. And when you're up there, you're on the moors. You can go any direction you want.
Yeah.
Even up to Scotland if you want to. It's kind of open game from there.
Yeah.
There are so many Brecon Beacons.
Yes.
This is an army base, and we've got all of the missing people and all of the strange reports that go with that. Todmorden, same thing. I'm trying to think of them all. Bempton, there's another one.
Yep.
There's so many. I've worked on so many cases, and when you look them up, you think, Rendlesham, there's another one. Yep. Rendlesham's the same. Bearman reports in Rendlesham. Just ongoing.
Is a very common. That is a weird kind of trade. But could there be a link between Spring Hill Jack? Because that was something we did a couple of months back.
Yeah, it was.
Spring Hill Jack lasted throughout the Victorian times into the Edwardian times, and there's been recent reports of it. And the Duke of Wellington went out searching for this thing, because I know that my father's father told my father about it because he remembered it when he was a kid. And Spring Hill Jack, what you've reported with this sort of big muscular figure that would be running around, jumping over rooftops and things like that, it seems to be linked in many ways. And because there are so many sightings, and reportage in the Victorian times was far superior than it is today, because a reporter really had to know the English and that. And yes, there's always been fake news, but so many sightings. And for the Duke of Wellington to go out after this, whatever it was. But shall we have a quick look back in chat again, because it's really quite lively. And we've got here, what we got? This is about last week. This is Louise Wilcox says, yes, Chris, it was a one-man band last week with plenty of laughs. That's very kind. Thank you very much. Oh, that's very kind. Yeah. But I tell you something, it's very tiring when you do it on your own, because you've got and it's all ums and ahs. And I get conscious of that. Now it says here, this is one for Deborah Hatswell. Sorry. Oh yes, we've covered that one. Yes. And we need a note from your parents. It's baby with a laser. Hi folks, sorry I'm late. How are we all? No crawling. No crawling. It's lines this week, I think,
I don't do lines and I don't do detention, so you're gonna have to.
That's right. Yes, definitely, yes.
I do enough of that.
Now we've got here Richard on Solent says, Deborah H, did you have any strange experiences in Wales?
No.
P.S. Thanks for your comments just now. I will. Amazing. So that's interesting. And
but we had a cracking time. We had a really, really good time. We had a few people came up to meet us, and we had a campfire, and we sat around camp, and I offered to take them out and show them all of the sighting areas, but they were just happy around camp talking. We had a really, really good time. So we had a chat with the lady that owned the farm. We were right at the bottom of Snowdon, Chris. It was beautiful.
Oh, it is nice.
Farm setting. We got the fire going for them. We watched the mist come in over the mountain. We all had a cup around the fire, and we just stayed up late talking about personal experiences and just subjects that we all enjoy, and it was cracking. So we're going to arrange it again for next year with the lady who owns the farm. And yes, it was a very expensive £10. That's all it was.
But the best things are the cheapest. Because I hate being ripped off when they say, "Oh, it's only £600 to stay here and do that." No,
it was
that is.
We had a cracking time. We really did have a good time. Yeah, people came so far away as well. I was really shocked at that. We had people that came up from Essex, and we had people that came from the northeast of England, which is Linda drove. I think some people drove 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Just to come out. It was absolutely amazing. Everyone was really relaxed, and there was no nerves.
No.
It was really good. I can't wait to do it again.
And did the people from Essex need a phrase book, or were they perfectly okay?
No, it was lovely. Tim, it was lovely. Tim does my videos. He does my digital art for me, and he came out. Yeah. So I've known him a while, but it's the first time we've met face to face. Oh, but it was lovely. We enjoyed every second of it. It was really nice.
Brilliant.
There's something very interesting about what you're saying. I mean, I'll just quickly put this in.
I know
another big cat sighting in Cheshire this week. That's interesting.
That's my friend in the chat. I know who he is, man with a pan.
Hello.
All right.
Man with a pan. It says here, it was nice to hear you, Deb Hatswell. Relay my gnome story in your last Wells video. Yes, because there was something that it sounds a bit odd, but we live in a kind of mystical land because we're an island race, and island races are always a bit different. You know, if you go to Ireland itself, they're a bit different. This is why I think the relationship between Ireland and Britain, and shall we say England, is really close in many ways, even though there's been wars and things, because the continent is very different. And I often talk to people that have come from overseas that live here out of choice. And there's a chappie I often talk to who comes from Bulgaria, and he said there's something unique about here. And there's something a kind of magical. Words magical. And
we've got a lot of history, though, haven't we?
It's magical.
Yes.
We're made of it. When you think about it, without being cheesy, the rivers of this land run through your blood.
Yeah,
you thousands of people had to get together for you to be here right now at this right time. So we really need to be proud of our country and say we've had so many invasions and yet we're still here. We're still standing and we keep our uniqueness. You know, we are unique people. Like the chap there, everybody just associates me with Bigfoot. People think I just do Bigfoot reports. I don't just do Bigfoot reports. But that's what I'm known for. I do amazingly beautiful reports like that. He's in the car with his mates driving, and this little man in green steps out from the hedgerow with a tiny little harp and just crosses the road and goes into the hedge at the other side. And they all sit and watch him in a wonderment, and then he's gone. So that's a perfect little moment in time. If we hadn't written it down, it would just become obsolete. Nobody would know, you know. So I spoke to, remember Una? I spoke to a lady called Una, Chris, in Ireland, and she said her auntie. I might get the date wrong. I think it was the 40s, but don't pin me down on that. Was driving a car and 4 little men ran out in front of the car and she swerved and had an accident. And she said she was very religious and never ever swore and was very, very honest and said, no, it wasn't a sheep, it wasn't a deer, it was 4 little men. Yeah. And I said to her, what was her name? And she said, my auntie Una. And I said, oh, Una means the queen of the fairies. Yeah. And she said, oh, that's funny you should say that, because the land that I live on is the land of the Fae. And I thought, oh, you've just been connected to that land for generations.
Yeah.
Time began. So no wonder she can see beyond the veil. She's as in tune with that land as that other mystical being is.
Yeah.
That's right. But do you think it's very odd that in Ireland they've got the little people, they believe in, but then you've got Iceland, which is a long way from Ireland, believe in the little people. And even now, if they're building a road and it's going to upset the little people, they will divert it. And that's from their council. You know, they'll say, oh, no, we can't build it, it'll upset the little people.
It's part of their culture, isn't it? Their history.
I can attest that my niece went to the elf school in Iceland, and nobody ever believed me when I say this, but she's actually studied in Sweden and Norway as well, and she studies ancient languages and ancient customs and cultures. So between college and uni and doing a master's, she actually went to in Iceland. They have a university, and it's all about elves and trolls. And and she did a year there, and she absolutely loved it. And I've told loads of people, and they go, "I think we think I'm crackers," but they actually pay you to do it, Chris.
Wow!
So
I wouldn't mind going to.
They want to keep the culture. They want these stories to stay. You know, we back in the day we would stitch them into our clothing or in the patterns that we wore. You know, in the things that we made. We were so in tune with the nature. And what name do I put on it, Deb? Elementals, whatever name you want to call what's out there in the woods, what we give it in these days. Back then, maybe it was a woodwose, I don't know. But we put them in our churches and in our places of worship.
Mysteries.
Yeah, and not all fairies look like they do on Disney. No. That's wrong. Some fairies are evil little bar stools.
Yes, that's true.
And some fairies are 7 foot tall and hairy because they've written about us that way back in our law. The satyrs, as they were called back then. The man monkey. Yeah. Really fascinating. Is. When you go back to history, you find out some amazing things.
Yeah.
Look at dragons. Now, in Chinese mythology, you've got dragons. Now, China is a bloody long way from here.
Yeah.
But in Wales, they've got the dragons.
Yes.
But there was, it sounds racial what I'm going to come out with, but it is not. I 100% assure you it is not. There's a chap called Town Crier. He might be on tonight. I don't know. But he supports, I think he's part of the English Constitution Party. And he said there's a big difference between English and British, because the British are the aristocracy, who are the Normans who came over, you know, the people that speak with a plum in their mouths. They're the British. We're the English, because remember, we were slaves under the Normans. And before the Normans, there was no serfism, and they introduced serfism. So when you look at it, and also there was no land ownership. People they'd farm it. So we had universities here. We had very educated people here. And it was just, sadly, we lost the Battle of Hastings. But if we'd won it, it'd have been a very, very different country today.
Yes. I would suggest that people had their DNA done if they could, because I had mine done and I was absolutely astounded. I would have said I was as English could be. And I would have said that both sets of grandparents were as English can be. And I'm not even English.
Really?
I'm Irish, Welsh, and Prussian. Yeah.
Well, I haven't had my DNA done, but I do know that my mother's side is France. One half came over with the Normans, so I'm a bit Norman. Not Norman wisdom.
No, I know what you mean.
Norman and a bit Cornish. And on my father's side, it's German and Welsh, because of the surname Powys, but it's the English spelling, not the Welsh spelling. But you'll always say, oh, Welsh. No, it's
not a Y, it's an I.
It's an I, which is the English spelling.
Yeah.
And our lot came from the Hereford side. But when you look at it, we look at the strangeness. I mean, Cornwall, for example, apparently in Spain, they say, was it part of the mythology is they look on Cornwall as one of the most haunted places, and they say to children, and anybody that's Spanish or has been in Spain will be able to tell me more about this. I know a little bit. They say long ago in Cornwall, meaning it's like a sort of like a fairy tale. And it's mythic.
Avalon.
Yeah, I mean, look at the lighting. I mean, I'm a Cornwall fanatic. I've always wanted to live there. There's something about the lighting, or Devon, the West Country, those towers and the myths and things like that. But John Heyman was on the other week, and he didn't really believe in fairies until a friend of his took a photograph.
Yeah.
Suddenly saw something, went, aye. And also, I've said this on previous shows, so sorry to sound a bit boring. This chappie, Dowsing, who was head of fighter command in 1940 during the Battle of Britain, he believed in fairies, and he started a society in the 1950s, which academics joined it. He believed in reincarnation, and he believed they were essential to pollinate plants. I always thought of bees and wasps and flies did it, but he said, and he's a very, very interesting man.
Yeah.
Downing, he really is. And he's not what the military, you wouldn't expect him to be head of fighter command. And he was a bit of an embarrassment. They sort of pushed him aside at the.
Doesn't surprise me.
Jack Parsons. Very similar to Jack Parsons, isn't it? He was a NASA scientist, yet he believed in the opening of portals and the fact that we could time travel or move backwards and forwards between dimensions. And that was his life's work, trying to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. It's a fascinating field. And I think that also when you look at things like Stonehenge and mysteries like that, why the hell do they drag rocks all the way from Wales down to Salisbury Plain? When you think it's something, and remember they're quartz, and we've got quartz.
It must have meant something. Human beings don't go out of our way to drag stones across. If we can get away with it, we don't. It must have been sacred
Yeah.
In some way. Like, has anybody visited the one in Ireland? It's the oldest building in the world, man-made building. I remember going into it with my mum when I was a child, and you go down into the burial chamber, and at solstice, this tiny little window, the sun comes right through and floods the chamber with light.
Oh.
How did they know that before they built it?
Exactly, yeah.
You know, it must have been incredibly important to them. And it ties in places like that. Ancient barrows tend to have Bigfoot reports. So Stonehenge has a Bigfoot report. Kent, there's a lot of monoliths and things like that in Kent, and they follow the line. So I had a look at how many of the reports are actually near standing stones and menhirs or monolith, anything like that. And it's quite a lot of them are. So I don't know if it's the energy of the area.
Could be, yeah.
Emitting, or is it attracting in some way? Is it the stone itself or the ancient site itself?
Yeah.
And those sites tend to be on the ley lines, and the site reports tend to follow the ley lines. So I think it is to do with energy. I just don't know.
How?
I can't fit all the pieces together. Yeah.
Are the stones at Stonehenge? I can't even say it. Are the stones at Stonehenge? Have they got crystal in?
I don't know. Never been.
They're blue stone, aren't they? And
I think so.
Again, in chat, they'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, probably will.
Think they are a form of crystal, and if Hayley's watching, who's the crystal lady, she'll be able to put me right there.
Because they're aligned with the planets and the seasons and everything, aren't they? The way they know that.
Same with the pyramids, but I mean, you've got is it to the chap Hancock, I think it is, who believes that civilization was wiped out 10,400 years ago.
Yeah, Graham Hancock.
That's right, Graham Hancock, and they were more advanced. Or as advanced as, say, the Victorians got to. So they were pretty advanced then. But I don't know if you've heard the story of the Long Barrow, that I think it was the BBC was doing an omnibus report in the 1960s in one of these long barrows. And a sound engineer went down there beforehand with his oscilloscope to get the sounds, because it's a bit difficult because it's all sort of echoey.
Yeah.
And all these very strange image carvings on the wall that nobody quite knew what they were for, and he noticed that his oscilloscope, what was going on in his oscilloscope was almost identical to what was on the wall. And he said they knew something about sound resonance. He said it was definitely to do with sound. It's like the pyramids. They've never found bodies in the pyramids. They said they're burial chambers, but a lot of people believe that they were healing centers.
Or speakers. The pyramid.
Right.
Stonehenge, I know somebody who did an experiment at Stonehenge, and what they did was they set up a drumming circle, and people will do that to raise energy. And they said that the dome itself worked like an amphitheater. It actually bounced the sound back off the hills, so it intensified the sound. So not like a pyramid will intensify energy, and the higher up you go, the higher that energy is. This bounced the sound out all across the land. So maybe it was a way of calling people.
Yeah.
You know, this drumming noise. And now they've looked at it through LiDAR. There are actual roads, not what we would class as a road, but walkways that were paved and lit. So it would have been much, much bigger and a far bigger scale than we even realise today.
Yeah.
So the work that went into that, what were we worshipping?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
That's right. Know. But they might not have been worshipping. Now, we've got some answers in chat now. And I do apologise to people if I can't read all your messages out, because we've got so many. Thank you very much. And we do read all the messages. Yes. But I hope you can understand the situation. I mean, I'd love to read them all. I think we'd be here till next week if we did.
So it's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible.
They are, Robbie Green says, blue stones in one ring, granite in the bigger ring. And I've actually got a story about
Where's granite?
Because when I was a young lad last week, and I went there with my mummy and daddy to Stonehenge. In those days, you could walk around free of charge to park there, and you could walk around and
touch the stones
and things like that. And to me, we should still be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's about 20 quid or so to stand away from it. You can't even go up to
it. What if you're like me and you can't walk like me and Deb? Yeah. I can never go now. You've got to walk in about 5 miles.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
All off.
Well,
only the well-off will be able to worship at Stonehenge from now on.
Yeah.
Well,
only
you
the
know the
well-off.
excuse that they gave to bar people from it, and I always remember this. And they said that vandals had daubed the stones with paint, and it would take several thousand years for that paint to come off.
Yeah.
So that's why they got to. But I'm sorry, that's bullshit. That's complete and utter bullshit. But I did hear a story, and make of it what you want, and you can look it up on YouTube, not YouTube, Google. In 1971, that's when they banned the public from going into Stonehenge. Show me age now. Some hippies. Now, I don't know whether this is
I
true.
remember that. Yeah.
No, there's some hippies camped there, and there's a terrible thunderstorm, and they got struck by lightning. And it was a sort of 1,000,000 to 1 chance. And there's a police officer and somebody else at the spot that tried to rescue them. And that's the reason why they banned people there. That's another reason.
It's my soapbox, Chris. There is not one other place of worship in the entire world that you have to pay to visit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I think
that's my religion. That's my forefathers' religion. My forefathers built that. And that's like me saying to you, no, if you want to go in a Catholic church, you need to give me £25.
Yeah.
And there'd be an uproar. There would be an uproar. It is the only place of worship in the world where you have to pay to go and pay your respects. And it's absolutely disgusting. And I think they do it because they can make money from it.
Well, I agree. And that excuse that they daubed paint, and then the other excuse that there was a lightning and that, how comes it's been there for thousands of years, but you never had people being killed by lightning there before, and people didn't daub paint over it? So I think that is bullshit, 100% bullshit, and that really.
It's another way.
Really angry,
isn't it? It's another way of like keeping our religion contained. So it's like you don't recognise it for what it is if you don't actually say that. There's an early religion in England that some people still follow. We got wiped out by the Romans and that was it. So they don't teach you anything pre-Roman because they don't want you to have that pride that will make you stand up and say, no more. No, I'm done. This is how we're doing things from now on. This land does not belong to you because you were given it by some king in the 7th century. It belongs to the people that have ploughed it week in, week out, with no money, no food, 7 kids to an house. That's who it belongs to. The farmer, the man who paved the road, the guy who saw to the horses, the chimney sweep. It's our land and nobody should be allowed to keep us off it. And if you ever see a sign that says public access, walk on it. Because if you don't, they can take it away.
They
can do it with common land. If you don't use it, they can say, right, we'll sell it, we'll give it away.
Yeah.
And we are losing more and more and more of our common land. We used to know every single beacon from the top of the country to the bottom.
Yes.
And we knew it as a person because that's how we got our news.
Yeah.
So you look for that beacon, that light, and we don't even know where they are anymore. You have to look them up online.
Yeah, I know.
And it makes me so mad because all of them are owned by people. How do you own a beacon, Oh, it really get
the Normans, because all the aristocracy are of Norman descent.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Again, the difference between the British and the English. And when you look at the terrible barbaric things that have happened, it's the British mainly, because we were quite placid, sort of nice people in many ways. When you look at the weather conditions here, it's a sort of temperate climate, although the Toyota, the car manufacturers, say it's a harsh climate. They actually put it down as a harsh climate. But it is in many ways because, it could be, it's hot in the summer, cold in the winter, but it doesn't get that cold and it doesn't get that hot in the summer. But it's more of a humid heat. That's the thing.
And you can get more than one weather pattern in a day as well. I think that's strange to people who live abroad. We've had occasions where it's been July and it's hailstormed. We're just used to it as Brits. We live on an island, so we're used to the weather. But to other people, that's quite they say like, oh, you have 4 weather systems in one day. It was quite normal, isn't it?
It's just in June, not long back, didn't we?
That's right.
Where I live, up in the northeast, where our beacon is on top of Winter Hill, that's made of granite. and there are an awful lot of reports of strange cryptid creatures around it. But if you stand up on it, you can see all the way to Wales.
Yeah.
All the way to the Welsh coast. You can see the Snowdonia Mountains. So we would have lit that beacon on there, and in pitch black, they would have been able to see it.
Yeah.
They would have lit theirs, and it would have just been, it must have been an amazing thing to see as it went across the country. You've got all that human energy, like positive, and they don't want us to have that anymore. They want you to just go to work, go home, put the X Factor on, go to work, come home, put the X Factor on. You don't ask a question then. You blink, You start to take some pride in your environment and your culture and your surroundings. You start asking questions.
Yeah.
And you start saying, well, why are you entitled? Why are you entitled to own all of that land? And I'm not allowed to put my horse or my, walk my family on it.
They stole it. And that's what the Doomsday Book was all about, because they wanted the inventory of what we had and steal it from us. I mean, we were literally, at Battle in Hastings, they didn't bury the bodies. They left them there for about 100 years. That was their attitude. It's horrendous. It really is. But again, I'm not against anybody of Norman, because I'm half. We're all bit Norman, aren't we?
Yeah. There's nobody in the UK that was just from England
as well. But this is what makes this rich, because of people that come from overseas have often said their winters are colder because it's a damp coldness than on the continent, where it's a dry coldness. And lots of people have said that. This chappie from Bulgaria, he said, this is freezing. He said, it really is cold. And I remember some Russians came over here and they went back to Russia because it's so bleak and cold here. Yeah. It's a damp coldness.
Yeah,
so
it's very similar to Vancouver in Canada, or Washington State in America. We have this really temperate, wet climate, which that's bloody good for Bigfoot reports, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Well, it draws in the day, lots of fresh new growth. Farming, you can cut the grass here, cut your grass, and if you have a good couple of days of rain, it's probably 4 to 5 inches up. Grass feeds on water; it likes to be cut, and that brings animals in, and that brings predators in to follow those animals. Yeah. How can you prove that, Deborah? Well, lots and lots and lots of the Bigfoot reports are on golf courses, which is utterly ridiculous. I said to my husband, why would they? And he said, because they cut the grass continuously, that brings the deer in. Yeah. So once the golfers go home at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night or whatever, then this is why we get reports, because the people will say we were on the golf course or we were jibbing through, which means we were just sneaking through. You get poachers on there getting rabbits and stuff like that. Yeah. Or you get security guards that are actually security guards on the golf course who make the report.
Yeah.
So it's continuous like that. So it seems that there's these little places where we can almost pinpoint them, so you can say, well, the possibility, it's got the train line, it's got all the monoliths that we'd look at, it's got the nice golf course. We should be getting a sighting report from in here. So it's almost like we can start to predict them, where they're going to be next. I mean, we'll never be able to do that. It's absolutely impossible. Too many variables. But it's a good way of moving forward. Yeah, it's just thinking, if we can map them and see if there's any pattern, anything that crops up, whether it's a seasonal pattern, whether it's a migrational pattern, we might spot something. And I honestly believe that they follow the food, because it's warmer down south much quicker than it is for us. And I think that the years and years of sitting back watching, the reports in the south start to come in first, about May or June.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any this year. We haven't had any new reports at all this year. And that's quite normal. That can be normal. And then as it follows the season up, you start to get reports as they go through the country. We get a lot of reports of like footprints and howls and things shadowing in the woods, but no actual face-to-face report this year of a creature. So things have changed. Last year we had 6 by this time.
It's incredible. Because, I mean, the photograph that introduces this show, or what that I put that goes on there, that was taken, I think it was on the Himalayan expedition, and that was of a Yeti.
Yeah,
it's just completely different. But going back to Stonehenge, British Richard on Solent. Hello, Richard. Whoa, never heard of a Stonehenge Bigfoot before, but it makes sense. Only lived 2 or 3 miles away for 11 years. I think the stones were floated up the Bristol Channel 7 for part of the way. Now, there's the next one by Joe Weeks.
Can I just answer that one, Chris, before you go on?
Sorry.
Richard, the River Severn, don't look at the areas, look at the River Severn's course. Go on my map, and it's not the areas that are important. All of the site reports follow the Severn from its estuary to its end, and I think they're using that as a corridor. Same with the Trent, same with the Ouse. Yeah, that
sounds interesting. And then we got here, Joe Weeks says 2 main types of stone are present at Stonehenge. Saracen, nothing to do with the Saracens' pickles, sandstone for the massive framework of upright stones capped by horizontal lintels, and a mix of ingenious rocks.
How did they know to put those 2 stones together to amplify?
And also the little the grooves
that they sit on. How do you know? And the stone, the masonry. The masonry on those stones is just how.
And did they do it with antlers? Sorry about that bullshit again. Because I'm sorry, you can't do. I mean, in Greece, for example, you see marble which has been cut, you think, with a razor. And they said, the archaeologists, oh yes, well they did this with all antlers and bits of, BS. No, they didn't. They must have had advanced knowledge.
Chris, have you ever heard of the Bosnia Triangle? Bosnia, say it for me, Dad. Pyramid. I couldn't get it.
Oh yes. The Bosnia, and they've found another one. There's supposed to be one in Wales, isn't there?
Yeah. When they tested it, they sent a weather balloon up with a meter to test the energy, and the higher that balloon went, the higher the energy peaked. So it was almost like it was funneling energy up from it. I'd love to visit it. I'd love to get a feel of it. Stone in there is intricately cut like jigsaw pieces and put together, and it's not the type of stone that you can really do that with. So like slate and stuff, you can get it to split. But this is hard, solid stone, Oh, I'd love to visit. I'd love to have a touch, get my hands on the wall and see what I can feel.
Well, if you get a book called Supernature, and that was published in the 1970s, in it shows you, because when I was at work, loads of people got Supernature, and to make a pyramid, and you can actually sharpen razor blades under the pyramid, because I was in a drawing office, and of course you use a lot in those days. You used razor blades to scratch work out, and they said, "Was it so like tuppence a go or something?" And you put a razor blade, they leave it for the weekend, and apparently it worked.
Yeah,
the author, I think he died recently. But Supernature, you still get it on Amazon, I think.
Darren's just pointed it out there. Supernature. It means, doesn't it mean? I know pyramid breaks down to fire.
Yes.
Fire is the fire, but I don't know what the other bit is. We find teepees. You'll have heard of it in Bigfoot structures. People will talk about these teepees, these dens or whatever it is they want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that. I don't think they're anything to do with that. I mean, any self-respecting creature that wanted to remain elusive would not hide in a pyramid of sticks that wasn't covered with no back door. It just wouldn't happen.
No.
If you test them, and this is going to sound absolutely crackers and you're not going to believe me, but if you put your mobile phone on top of that structure, it will interfere with the signal. To the point where I have filmed it because I didn't believe it myself. So you can put an iPhone on it and it will increase your signal. You put an Android on it and it'll reduce it. And there are we tested it with an EMF meter to make sure it was true. And where the sticks met, it actually sticks should not be giving off any EMF at any point. And they were. So my husband, Matt, made his own. He got 4 sticks and put them together and they emitted a signal. That is absolutely impossible. It can't happen. But I saw it with my own eyes and I filmed it.
Yeah.
So we just started doing it in other areas. And there's an old granite wall in Roddlesworth. And the moss, Chris, as we put that EMF meter to that moss, it was giving off signals that were ridiculous. And there's no way that moss can give off an electrical signal, but it was doing it. And we just couldn't. I've never looked any more into it because I don't understand it and I don't know where to go with it. What do I do with that information?
What about dowsing? Now,
Yeah, you can douse them. Yeah.
You don't have to get what is it? A certain piece of timber.
You can
Two metal coat hangers.
Yeah.
Biros, you know, the biro tubes. Put them in and stand like that and go on, and you'll bend two pieces of wire, two metal coat hangers. As you walk along, when you find water, the two pieces of wire go together, back again. Because remember, we're about 80% water, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Dowsers used to get paid a lot of money, and people never believe that. But they don't just find energy; they'll find water, they'll find oil. They'll tell you the best place to put your farmhouse.
Yeah,
where you should be putting your animals. They were actually really, really employable back in the day, and now they're a rarity, a complete rarity. But yeah, you get somebody to come. You get a homestead, you get somebody to come out, and they would tell you where your likely water source was going to be, and that means that you can stay there if you've got water. Yeah. So they were vital back in the day, and I think we just poo-pooed it. We just, more mumbo jumbo or whatever word we want to put on it.
I just think it's as we move along, society moves along, and these things are just lost.
I gave my grandson his first lot when he was 3. Do you remember, Deb, when I gave Zane his first lot and he was about 3, Chris? And kids take to it like a duck to water. He'd stand and hold it and ask it a question. And if it crossed, it was a yes. And if it went the other way, it was a no. And he didn't question it in any way. He accepted it.
Yes.
And that's why it worked for him, because he accepted it.
Yeah.
This is like you stand there and you answer, and that dowsing.
Nan, what you doing? I'm dowsing, son. What are you dowsing for? I'm trying to find somewhere to put a plant. Can I do it? Yeah. What do you do? Well, you hold them and you ask them a question. So I say, is my name Zane? And they'd cross. And that's how it starts for a kid. Yeah? So no matter where we go now, he'll say, have you got your rods in your bag? And he'll go off for a little wander because he likes them to cross. But while he's doing that, he finds tadpoles and sticklebacks and squirrels and stoats. It's all part of the nature for him. Makes being in the woods exciting for him. He loves it.
Exactly.
Should be told that's it, because I believe that science is a religion. Now, science has brought us computers. It allows us to speak to each other across the airways. Brilliant, yes. But it's all or none. It's like a pendulum.
Yeah, it's tuned us out that way, yeah.
When you think about it, our ancestors not that long ago, when you're talking about, say, the 17th century, 18th century, all our ancestors were peasants in many ways. They worked off on the land. And they believed in fairies, pixies, all kinds of things like that. They weren't stupid. Those people, if they were stupid, we wouldn't be here. They had some intelligence.
They planted with the seeds with the moon.
Because quite honestly, you put us in a situation they were in, we wouldn't survive 5 minutes. No. Mind you, they probably wouldn't survive in our society but we've lost a lot of this ancient feelings.
Yeah.
I use gut feeling a lot. And I'm trying to get that back. The sort of your gut feeling says, well, do this, don't do that. And but with me, science, what gets me is when you look at the BBC and you always get Professor Smudget. They always have a bow tie, don't they? Yeah. They always talk like this, and they always hold their lapel. Well, and they start the first part of the program, like if it's about Bigfoot, saying, and they think, well, that's interesting. And then the second part of the program is Professor Arsehole saying, oh, yes, well, that was only a silhouette of a donkey, really. And processes. It doesn't exist, all that. But I haven't got a television now, so I don't have to watch it. Now let's go back in here. We got here Tits and Bum Tabloid.
Oh,
I love that name, Tits and Bum Tabloid. I believe civilization was wiped out 43 years ago when Howell and Pace got their first series.
Yes. It was never 43 years ago, was it?
Don't tell me that. I feel very old.
I do now. Go lie down, move me Zimmer frame to one side.
Now,
I was only one.
I'm older than you too. I'll keep
lying, Chris.
Yeah.
Ladies allowed to lie.
Child is 36.
Well, my granddad said I'm as old as my head and a little younger than my feet. So there we go. Now it says, Ancient Ruby says pyramids are 100% beacons. Because I don't know if you've seen Richard D. Hall's Rich Planet, but he looked into it some time ago with a pyramid in Wales that has been covered over as a council estate that's built on it. So and
Deb's working a case at the minute in Moncton, where the lady was eaten by foxes supposedly and badgers, and we found underneath not the there's a labyrinth there now, but it's a tourist one.
Yeah,
but it's based on something that was below, much further below, and I wonder if the reason that you get Bigfoot reports there and this strange case of this missing woman is to do with this labyrinth below the land. Is it? Is it tied into it in any way, kind of thing?
Sort of energy centre.
Not so much hollow earth, more an actual built labyrinth, but below.
Structure, yeah.
So if somebody's taken the time to channel that out below, it's of some importance, isn't it? And I wondered, because there is a standing stone within about a mile away from it. So the area's been important for a reason then, or they wouldn't be there. Yeah. And it's just, you get these recent reports of these hairy Bigfoot type creatures, really, is the only name I can put on them. I hate that word. Bigfoot just doesn't do it for me. No. Because that's just an umbrella word, doesn't it? It just covers so many things.
Well, that's it. And I mean, what gets me is these smug archaeologists, if they don't know the answer to something, they always say, oh, this is ceremonial. So they say, if they dug this up, they say, what is it? Oh, it's used for ceremonial purposes.
Yeah.
So something you can drink out of. And things like that. And that's always, whenever they say something is ceremonial, that means they haven't got a bleeding idea what it's about.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we've got here, now this baby with a laser. This is interesting. Some people reckon Stonehenge was moved lock, stock and barrel from Wales. Not just stone. The whole
thing. Yeah, that's what I know.
I've never heard that one before.
Mm. Yeah, you stole it off the Welsh. It's like the Elgin marbles all over again, and we want it back.
Yeah.
That's right.
We should be charging you 25 quid to go and see it. Not you.
It was like Silbury Hill. When I went to it, I walked up it because they had fencing to stop you. And there's a hole in the fence and people walking through it because, sorry, that's an ancient monument, Silbury Hill. That's the one near Stonehenge, isn't it? Now we've got here.
Is Richard talking about Lee Woods in Bristol? You let me know in the comments, Richard.
It's got frequencies of sound to heal. Yeah. I agree with you.
I have some reports there.
You get a cat purring on your lap. That actually, did you know that's a resonance? It's a healing thing.
Yeah.
Now, we've got Joe Weeks, made from 99.7% quartz crystal. The stones are practically indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who ever think watches come from quartz crystal? And that was only discovered in the 1930s. So not that long ago, Now it says here, V. McCrinnan, what Deb H is saying is true. We did drumming, magic at SH festivals right up till Thatcher shut our festivals down. Bitch. Yes. Don't start off about her.
Let's not go. We're not doing politics.
That's not true, Chris. What isn't true? I don't know.
Tits and Plum, are you supposed to be up this late? Like, has your parents not put you to bed yet?
What
is true? Comments. I know,
I have please enlighten me. What? I don't know. Anyway, going to agree. Oh well. So I'm not sure. Agree, Chris. And when authority want to stop people going there, they use excuses and lies against us or fear mongering. We will pay for air one day.
Yeah.
So yes, that was said in the book. Was it the I can't remember what it was called now. The Rigot years ago that they will, if they could charge for air, they would.
Yeah, they would.
What gets me is paying for parking. I'm sorry, you pay vehicle excise duty. It should be illegal to pay to park, and that really gets up my ooter. £5, £10, and you've only got limited time. Now, if I go someplace, I want to spend as much time as I want there. I don't want some charge being charged at the earth to park my car. I already pay enough tax on it. That really gets up my ooter, that it does.
Yes.
But now it says here, now, Ancient Ruby, check out the work of Alan Wilson. That was it. And Baron Blackett. That is right. They're on the Richard D. Hall's show.
Right.
And they did a lot of work. He's getting on a bit now, one of them. but they were fascinating. And they said, was it King Arthur? There were several King Arthurs, and they were from Wales.
From Wales as well.
Yes, that's quite interesting. Now that's it. But now what we got here? We got Paul Green. That's English heritage for you.
Yeah,
Rip off. Cornwall is a rip off. Everywhere you go,
national heritage site is a rip off. Every national heritage site is a rip off because they're charging you to stand on your own land.
Yes.
Yeah, you owned it before it was given away by a queen that was put on the throne, and she shouldn't even be there. And honestly, we should just stand up one day and say, no, we're done. We're not paying. We're coming in.
Yes, but our last king was Harold. That was our king.
Yeah.
And because the king in those days were kings and queens were the eyes and ears of the underdog and the poor. And if you had before 1066, if you had a dispute about land or anything like that, you would actually go along and you'd have, I think it's King's Council or a representative of the king that would use their education to do a fair decision on something. So, that's what they should be. And what annoys me is when they speak, it's always up with their nostrils like this. Yeah. They'll be talking down to you. Yes. So you're a small little mouse, are you? Yes. You can squeak.
That won't wash with me. That wouldn't wash with me. No. Yeah. My father raised me to know that this land belongs to the common man. So it's not something I've ever had a problem. I'll go on private land all day long. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. Yeah, because 9 times out of the 10, the person who owns that land is probably in the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Because the guy that owns all of the land where I live lives in the Isle of Man, and he makes decisions on things that happen in the northwest of England. He's never even been here, so he's not telling me what farm field I can walk on and what lane I can walk on. It's not happening. I'm going to walk my dog wherever I want. As long as I'm respectful to the countryside and to the animals, I'm going where I want. Nobody's telling me where I can walk.
Freedom to building.
I mean, I next door to me is another sort of my neighbour's garden. And then there's a lovely, beautiful meadow there, and they're building on it, and it's like a World War I battlefield at the moment. So where it used to be peaceful, you could hear woodpeckers. You could hear. Now all you can hear is night sound of bulldozers and whatever.
Drills.
And I can't look at it. It upsets me because all we're going to see now is rooftops.
Yeah.
How? I mean, and to an indigenous population which is depopulating. Work that one out.
I can't afford to buy a home in my own area because I've been priced out by commuters.
Yeah.
So many of the farms that have been here for generations, those farms have been closed and they've had to go to court. They weren't sold willingly. Peel Estates took them to court and demanded the land, and they've just built 1,500 houses on it. And that's for commuters. That's not from people from my town. That's so it's easy to get to Manchester or Liverpool or Bolton. They have no ties to this town whatsoever.
Correct. What I'm finding around where I live. I mean, once upon a time, when I first moved here, if you wanted any vegetable, if you wanted, say, cucumbers and that, because it's famous for greenhouses around here, market gardening.
Yeah,
you just walk up the lane, and you think, oh, I think I'll go there. And you walk in there and you say, oh, I'd like some tomatoes, please. Fresh. They didn't come from Spain. They didn't come from out of Mongolia. No. They were just fresh. And this is where we've gone backwards. It's just, it makes me, I could feel like crying sometimes.
It's absolutely
makes sense. They're doing. Now we got here ancient rubies. Basically, check out the work of Al's. That's what we said.
We've done that one, Chris.
That's right. We've done that one, haven't we? Yeah.
Right. You're quite far back there in the comments, to be honest.
Right. Hang on a minute. This is interesting. What Richard on Solon said. Also, some of the hippies going to the Stonehenge Midsummer Music Festival used to cause chaos in nearby Amesbury every June in the 1970s. I won't go into full details here. That's interesting. Thanks, Richard, for that. I didn't realise that. Now we've got here. Why don't we build a new central in Anglesey?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Carry on.
After all, it was the Vatican of its. And this is interesting. Tits and Bum Tabloid. It was the Vatican of its day. Maybe it's big to bring it back to life. Long live Blighty, say. Interesting. Yeah, sorry, Deb. I think I'm a long way back here. So where should we go to? I'm sorry about this. So where are we going? Right, and Alan Chetwin is. I'm back. I'm more angry than ever. So you're I think you're angry from Norfolk, aren't you?
Angry from nowhere now. Got rid of him. Anyway.
There's a strange person in the chat, isn't there? Let's just ignore them. Probably.
No, I think I've got rid.
Yeah, that'll do. Probably one of the motley crew. Right.
Anyway.
Jo Weeks has just said there that her mum and dad used to go to the farm and get the meat. I'm so glad she said that. Where I live, there's a farm. It does ice cream, does really good milk, it does really good eggs, really good sausage, and 99%, and it's closer in the town, and 99% of people here go to Tesco.
Yeah, can't believe it, can you?
And you think, why are you not putting money in the farm? You know, it's a farmer and he's got all daughters and they've all branched out, and it's the best ice cream shop. When next time you come down, I'm going to take you, Deb.
Oh, yeah.
Best ice cream shop in the world. And it's always chocker when you go. There's a big queue.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
But when I moved in here, Chris, and I've probably been in here 25 years, I spoke to the young girl next door and she'd lived here her entire life. And I said to her, I'm taking my grandkids down to the stream. Do you want to come? And she went, the stream?
What
and I went,
stream?
yeah. Where's that? I said, just there, just under the train. Have you never been? She went, no. I thought she's lived her entire life here and she'd never been.
Yeah.
The farm fields ever.
But why isn't food in that grown locally? This is what is really.
It is grown locally, but it's sourced to big manufacturers, so Tesco's, Asda, Waitrose. It can be grown in your field, but it might travel 24 hours to go to Herefordshire or somewhere like that. What we're not doing is buying local produce.
Yeah.
Because the big shops want everything the same size, same shape.
Yeah.
Even down to a lamb shank. The way lambs get picked is on that back muscle. And it has to fit within a certain way. And it never used to be like that, ever. And that's how it is now. So they will get rid of animals that are perfectly good, but they don't fit that simple size. Yeah. The amount of food that gets wasted on farms is just it's frightening. Absolutely.
There's a lovely little farm. Well, it's not little; it's quite big now. There's a farm shop on the way to Brid called the Balloon Tree. Wow. They've got their own restaurant. They've got pick your own fields. They've got petting.
Oh, I'd be there in a shot, Deborah.
It's amazing, but you go into like a marquee outside where all the hard veggies, so the carrots and every single one has got a little wooden sign. It tells you whose field it was grown in, tells you who picked it, tells you when they picked it, and it's just it's got its own little history, all the carrots and all the potatoes and
all of that. We should know that. I think we should really know.
Yeah,
I really do. I think when this shit show is over, we will go back to. Because when you look at it, I don't want to sound look back in the past with rose-coloured spectacles. But before the Industrial Revolution, in a village, and I mean, it's not idyllic in a village because everybody knows what's going on and there's a lot of gossip in that. But let's look at it from another point of view. There was someone, people's skills were used. There's no such thing as unemployment. So you want to shoot.
Quality strengths.
There was a seamstress. And this went on really. Until probably the 1950s in many ways. It's a lot of skills have been lost because you'd be born into that society and you'd either be a labourer or you'd find a skill, you'd be a blacksmith or something like that.
Take it further back, Chris. Take it right back to when we were a tribe. There was no gender assignment in a tribe. It was not a man and a woman's job. If you were good at hunting, you hunted. If you were good at making clothes, you made clothes. Yes. If you were good at making out. So we play to people's strengths. And when you do that, you build a confidence. So what society, the elite, have done over time is take away all of our skills.
Yes.
So we've kind of been like the three monkeys. We've been blinded. We don't hear anymore. Our hands are tied. We don't play to our strengths, which makes for a weaker society.
It does, yeah.
Because you're trying to live in a 2022 world, but you still got this brain that worked in the 1815 century. So for all we progress, human beings don't progress at a speed in the same way that industry does.
Yeah.
You know, so we didn't realize when we were having the industrial revolution that within 200 years' time we would have ruined the country. We would have taken away culture. Man and horse would no longer work together anymore. You know, we would killed our own livelihood. That's what we did. But we didn't do it. The owners did it. They were allowed to do it because it's Parliament and they make the money. And it's just this forever wheel that will just continue to go on. But there's a change. There's a massive change. People are rewilding.
Yeah.
People are going back to the old ways. People are saying, no, I don't want to pay for electricity. I don't want to. I'd rather live in a van down near the river than pay that electricity bill.
Yes.
Month in, month out. You know, we have wars over power.
Yeah.
If we all had a solar panel on roof and a wind turbine, we wouldn't have to have a fight about electricity ever again. We are an island surrounded by the ocean. We've got as much energy as we need, but we don't use it.
Don't harness it.
That's right.
Yeah, it wouldn't keep us under.
Well,
so, you know.
Right. I don't wish. Sorry, I hope you don't think I'm talking cross. We've got, apparently, when the coal strike and that was over in the 80s, they said that there's 400 years worth of coal.
Yes.
But what gets me, I mean, solar panels are fine in the summer, but when you need the energy in the winter, they give you sod all. Because remember, we only get a little bit of light. But what. I
disagree with you there, Chris. I disagree with you there 100% because you can use a solar panel in Scotland because the sun will come up at 6 a.m. And you don't not to just have that solar panel. You would also have a generator. So it would be storing energy on really, really hot, like the solstice days. So you'd store that energy. And then you'd have a wind turbine. So on your cloudiest days, when we had bad weather, that wind turbine would kick in and we are still off grid. You can use a wind turbine to pump water up a well. There's people all over the world that don't pay for gas and electricity. It's a commercial corporate thing.
Oh, it is. I mean, but solar panels. I mean, I've got one in my car to keep the battery going over the winter, and it's not that good on when December the 21st, when it's the shortest day. You don't get that. You
would need a backup. That's what I'm saying. You would need a backup source. You know, we even if we didn't touch coal and we didn't touch wood, there's enough, or peat, because we can't be doing that anymore. There is enough. We're so used to central heating. I think that's what I'm trying to say. We're so used to being comfortable 24 hours a day. It wouldn't kill us to not have the electric on for an hour at night. We're just so used to having all of these things around us at a flick of a button. We forgot we went to sleep when it was dark and we woke up with the sun.
Yeah.
You didn't need a clock. You didn't need a calendar. Yeah. No. That's how you lived. You were in tune with it. And that's something that they've taken from us as well. So you're told what time to get up, where you have to go to work, where you can live. And that depends on your status and your family status. So don't you be coming up here with your common law, you know, Daddy was a coal miner. You can go and live down there at the bottom and we'll live up here on top where it's lovely. You know, that's still going on. And we've been fighting it since how long? When we were serfs back in the medieval days.
Yeah.
Well,
and
right.
it's kept us exactly where they want us, not asking any questions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe in government. I don't vote, but I don't believe in government. People say, oh, it'd be chaos without government. No, it wouldn't. Because what they've said, I mean, for example, they call the West the Wild West. Why did they put the Wild West in? Because if you look on YouTube, there's a chap, I wish I'd have actually, if I'd have known I was going to say about this, I could have put the clip on tonight. And it was a show in 1959. This chap knew White Earp. And he's a sheriff during the frontier days, shall we say, not the Wild West. And he said people were really honest in those days. You could leave a block of gold on the table and leave the door open and nobody would touch that block of gold. He said, and because criminality was so rare, it stuck out like a sore thumb. And it's a bit like newspaper reports, you know, dog bites man, that's not news. Man bites dog, that is news. So they made a great thing thinking that in the West, people were killing each other, shootouts. Yeah, there was, but so few. And because I think people, I mean, let's face it, why should I let some complete and utter stranger rule my life, who's a complete bullshitter, totally impractical, No, because I mean there are some rules that we do need, like we stop at the red light and start.
Yeah, common sense laws.
Common sense, yes. But then there's reason and things like, and everything now is to fine you for this, for doing 1 mile an hour over the speed limit and all this crap. And
Ruby said it's to keep us divided, keep us arguing amongst ourselves.
For money as well, because I don't want to go off. This is supposed to be about cryptozoology, and we go down the track. It's really about.
I think it all ties in, Chris. It ties into everything. The source at the end is money. You follow the money, don't you? So if
well, it's usually actually, Deb, this is usually scam where we're paying back a debt that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So if the government was to say, yes, there are Bigfoot creatures, we do have them, you'd lose all your logging, all your mining. You wouldn't be able to live in the area. You wouldn't be able to have tourists in the area. So you'd have to recognise them as a new species. Yeah. It would completely wipe out industry wherever they were supposedly were. And to prove that, in America, when they found a rare owl, it wiped out industry on, I'm not sure if it was the East Coast or the West Coast, because they couldn't log. And that over 50 years, the town's emptied and people moved away, and it completely changed society. So if they were to do that with Bigfoot, they'd have to do it in Canada, America, Russia, China, Himalaya, everywhere that you get the reports. They would have to be recognised as a species, and it would tip up society. Yeah. And then you have the question of, well, if they've hid this from us, what else have they hidden from us? How, if they've been able to hide this, what else is out there? So it gets you questioning even more. So I don't think any government will ever admit that there are Sasquatch creatures or that they are even reported. I really don't think they will. No. Unless it's like the UFO subjects and it happens in 30, 40 years' time. Yeah. That seems to be changing now. Hopefully that's what will happen. But I don't think any government will ever say, yes, we believe that they are there. It just costs too much money.
It also costs too much of a sort of a scare because the tabloids will get hold of it. But what do you think of these animal mutilations? I mean, that is really weird, where there's precise surgical.
I've seen them with my own eyes. I've seen them when I've worked the cases. And
I'm completely baffled.
It's not just that, Chris. They're at different crime scenes, is the only way I can put it. Like, so you see a big cat attack and it's messy, and they always go in by the belly or the back end. And you normally find some puncture marks around the neck. Yeah. If it's been killed by a domestic dog or a couple of dogs, it's a really messy scene. They leave a lot of gore and guts and mess. These cattle mutilations are in perfectly clean ground.
That's right. Yeah.
So no blood, no bodily fluids, no sign of a paw print, no saliva, no sign of a car, something that could bring the animal in and drop it like a bulldozer or an ATV. Yeah. No sign of that. But you've got these strategic cuts.
That's right.
That tend to be in a similar area. Yeah, this area.
Richard D. Hall's covered this as well. The jaw. It's terrible sights. And I remember when I was at school, it's all over the newspapers, mad slasher around, slashing horses.
Yeah, that still goes on to this.
Because everybody believed it. If I knew then what I know now, I realised it wasn't. It was these, whatever it is that's doing these mutilations.
Epping Forest had a case like that. Yes. With flanks, they actually described it as claw marks down the flank of the horse. Yeah. And it was quivering. The horse was frightened and quivering. So something had it. It was lathered, which tells me that it's put up a lot of a fight. Yeah. And it was kind of clawed at the back. But Epping Forest, you've got Bigfoot reports, you've got big cat reports. Yeah. Lots of big cat reports in Epping Forest. And the odd bear report as well.
Really?
Bear reports are far more common than people realise. Yes. They come in every year. A bear down on all fours, not a cryptid, an actual bear. Yeah. Hackney Marshes has a number of them. There was 2 bear heads found in the stream at Hackney Marshes. Let me think. Horseshoe Fell. I think that's Wales. A number of bear reports where this big, thick black animal is seen going off into the undergrowth, exactly like a bear would. And people report them all over the UK. And I wonder if maybe when all the big cats were given away in the 70s when the law changed? Was there anyone out there that had the odd bear cub?
Yep.
And let it go, into the wild kind of thing? And have they mated? I don't know. I don't know enough about bears or how they live to even attempt to come up with that. But I see the reports coming each year of people who make them.
Yeah. And bears are distinctive. I mean, bears walk.
Yeah.
Like bears.
They have a swing and all when they walk. Yeah. Randy explained it to me. They swing the head so they can smell food at all times.
You can't mistake a bear for anything else.
The ones on Hackney Marshes, they've gone on since the 70s. So the guy who was in Cooler Shaker, the band, said, "Oh no, that's my dog," and that photograph might have been his dog. But unless his dog's been alive since the 70s, that dog is not responsible for all of those bear reports down there. And to find the two heads in a stream, that those heads have been decapitated. So if the bear heads, and we biologically say these are bear heads, and they're in a stream on the Hackney Marshes, there are bear on the Hackney Marshes. There's no other way of putting it. And the reports have come in consistently over the last 60 years.
Yeah.
But people cherry pick. They say, "Oh no, it was that dog off Cooler Shaker." You say that's fine for the year 2000 reports.
Yeah.
You go back to 1970s, they were being reported then. That dog's not that old. I know it's not for a fact. So it'd be the oldest dog in the world, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's easier for people to deny and poo-poo and laugh off, because then if that's true, how many other things are true, So it's much easier to go, "No, don't believe it. Don't tell me anything else. Turn the telly on, let me plug in."
Yeah. Yeah.
The main question, though,
totally untrue.
Are we at risk from these strange? I mean, is there any reports of people being attacked, or are they friendly? I don't know, but
changing.
Sorry,
it's definitely changing.
Are they becoming more friendly, or are they more aggressive?
Back in the day, we'll have to do it off big cat reports because we don't know enough about the bears here in Britain to even contemplate that. But big cat reports, people believe that in the 70s, all of the big cats came from that release. And what they don't realise is, in the Victorian days, lots of ladies and gentlemen had foreign exotic pets. And the same law was passed that you could not keep them. So a lot of them were released way back in the Victorian days. We just don't publicise it.
Yeah.
So they're out there and they've learnt to breed between them, right? And then you get to the 70s and there's a whole load more that are released, right? Each cat, each male and female cat has to have a particular sized territory.
Yes.
And they hunt and live within that territory. And it's very territorial. That's why cats fight. So if you leave them for 50 or 60 years and pretend that they don't exist, what you have then is a massive population that's not being monitored in any way, shape or form, that is probably tripling or quadrupling each year as each cat gives birth. Well, how many times? 2 to 3 times a year, Deb? Female cat.
Yes.
So then, back in the 70s and 80s, you would hear of them in the Cairngorms or way up in the Brecon Beacons. And then about 2000, it'd be farmers and hikers and walkers that would see them.
Yeah.
Now it's dog walkers and people in their own gardens.
Yes.
And these cats, and they've changed their behaviour. So whereas they would keep away from a human and slink off, they are now shadowing a human.
Yeah.
And will front the odd dog walker as if to say, "I'm not scared of you."
Yeah,
because they're running out of land and they're running out of resources. So they've got to come closer and closer to man. So we have to get the government to fix up and say, if in a 10-year period in Staffordshire, there were 15,000 reports of cats, and that's just a 10-year period in one county.
Yeah.
How many cats are out there? We need a management plan. We need to be listening to farmers that are having sheep that weigh giant ewes lifted up out of pens.
Yeah.
What strength does it take to do that?
Yeah.
Sheep that are just 30 sheep in a pen for 6 because they're terrified of something. Heads are rammed into the wall and the throats are torn. Definite cat kills.
Yeah.
We've had 3 DNA reports in Britain come back. 2 of them were leopard. 1 of them was lion.
Yeah.
We've had distinct prints that have been taken. If this was any other country but Britain, we would have a management plan in place. We would be looking at population sizes and we would be trying to manage it. And the government has gone, no. And now we have a severe problem because people in Britain have been attacked. There is a number of people, including a police officer, who have been clawed across the face or across here. A woman in Scotland was taken down by a cat. It's changed. The last 10 years, these cat reports have got more and more frightening.
Yeah.
And they've got more and more courageous. And that's going to increase. You know?
Well, look at foxes. Now, foxes, there's a big problem in London.
Yeah.
In the centre of London.
Urban foxes,
urban foxes. I was actually, where was I now? Many years ago, I went down to a sort of like the suburbs of London and I parked my car up and there's this, it was, I'd say about 11 o'clock at night. Loads of foxes are running towards me. I got back in my car pretty quick. It was quite frightening. I had no fear of humans. And I thought,
no.
You think you get about 10 foxes charging towards you. I suppose it was for food. They went past my car and they was obviously interested in something else. But I thought...
You thought it was you.
It was great because you've got to go shoot. I mean, most animals are
scared of humans.
These weren't. But apparently, we got Richard on Solent. Yep, apparently big cats can breed any time of the year.
Yeah.
Breeding things.
And they can get pregnant at any day of the season. So a female cat can get pregnant to 2 or 3 different toms in one season. So she can have a litter that's spaced out over 2 weeks. They're actual breeding machines. And every person in the UK, most of us feed the birds in the garden, don't we? Yes. And that brings protein in. And those cats eat that protein. So they have worked out that humans equal food.
Yes.
You know, and that's... Yeah.
Well, a wild cat. I know that project I worked on once, I had to go and do a survey of this building, and there's wildcats there, and they're not frightened of anything.
No.
They're good for you. And these were really wild cats. And what they were domesticated cats that have obviously escaped or, I don't know, been put out by their owner. Who cares? Or there might have been some kittens that have survived. But they were and they literally weren't frightened.
Feral.
They're very feral, yes. Yeah.
You can get, I think cat species can intercross.
Yes.
I'm sure they can. So if we have natural cats here, you got the Scottish wildcat and things like that. A few people I've noticed in the comments, I frightened them and I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, this is Richard.
You do need to be aware when you're out there, and even there was a lady killed last week because of cows. She was trampled to death by cows. And I think if you're not from rural areas or some semi-rural areas, you don't realise the danger. If a deer comes running out at your car, you're very lucky to survive that accident. If it hits your thing and bounces, you're laughing. But if it's that windscreen and it's coming at you at speed, it can take you out. Yeah. I've been on horses up Winter Hill and I've had cars behind me beeping their horns to the point the horse wants to rear because it's a male horse and it's frightened, So there's a lot of that goes on. Cats will tend to slink away from you. They'll tend to not bother with you at all. But honestly, just take a torch or take something really, really loud and don't run. Make yourself big and don't run. That's the best advice that they can give you. And it's terrifying that we have to give that advice in Britain today. Yeah. But we have to because the cat populations are pandemic. They just won't admit it. Numerous police forces have an actual form that you fill in now for cat reports.
Yeah.
Why are we not told this? You apply under the Freedom of Information Act for your town and put in a 10-year span and you'll be amazed at the amount of cat reports that come back. Yeah. Amazed at them.
But that's the thing with most animals, that an animal is kind of conditioned to run after its prey. So if you run, but if you stand your ground.
Make yourself big.
Yeah, that's the thing. But this is interesting what Haji says. Anyone thought about what could happen from the beautiful reptile shops we have around the country? Absolutely wonderful. Lots of venom, no viper snakes for sale. However, lots of constrictors. Well, you often hear of them going missing, don't you? These snakes, and they can survive in the cold.
His baby with the lasers just raised it. There's an actual snake report in Wales. It doesn't faze me at all, and I take strange reports. So what people don't realise is I also get reports of misplaced animals.
Yeah.
So in the UK, we get a lot of reports of the rhea, that big bird.
Yeah, like an emu, ostrich.
A horned rhea. And that happens more in the south than it does in the north. We have lots and lots of wallaby colonies that are now natural to the UK. In Scotland, there's a pure white colony of them that's incredibly rare. We get capybara. They get reported quite often.
Yeah.
Hyena, believe it or not, from the Midlands. Bear, crocodile.
Yeah.
Parrots, but we know that there are pandemic populations of parrots. Wild boar as well, who once were a cryptid. Yeah. The Derbyshire beast that was a cryptid for hundreds of years. When you look at the description, it's got horns. It looks like a pig. It's got ears on top of it. The wild boar, we just didn't know we had them back then. And beaver and raccoon. We get a lot of beaver and raccoon reports. So much so that people actually match misplaced animals now across the UK. There's a report of a giant squid in the Thames. Wow. Not many years ago, only a few years ago now. Really? Father and son who were mudding saw it, yeah.
Because an interesting one about snakes. Where are we? Now, that was interesting. What baby with, with a laser. What does the panel think of the recent story of huge snakes?
I would imagine so. Every single chav out there, whoever bought a coral snake at 14 and let it go at 17 is probably responsible for most of the snakes that are out there. There are python out there and poisonous snakes. We wouldn't hold the vaccines for them in hospitals if they weren't out there.
Because they're not native to our country.
But we hold all of the vaccines for them, the antidotes for them.
We have many found in the UK, but the big snakes won't survive. They need warmth.
Heat. Yeah, the heat. They could, if they're in Wales, they can, because there's that desert in there. There's an actual desert in Wales. People don't understand the habitat of the UK. Look it up, Deb. It's amazing. An actual desert. And
there's one in Kent as well.
Yeah, and in through winter, no, but in a place like that, possibly could. Chimps, I forgot to say we get chimps. We get gorilla. I forgot to say that. Crocodile. That's right anymore. And then we've not touched on that. They said spiders, scorpions, anything that's been in a cage and let go because mum and dad don't want it anymore is possibly out there breeding. And it's just they don't tell us because they know we'll panic.
Can I just put flippers on at this point?
Yeah.
That's quite amazing. Was it the edible film that the Romans introduced it?
Oh, the hamster. Yeah, they used to eat the hamster, didn't they?
Yeah, but this breed of mouse.
Yeah, shrew with a nose.
Came from a zoo, and it's heading towards Hertfordshire. And if it get what they do, they eat all the wiring in cars. And if you get into your house, they'll eat all the wiring in your house. These things will chew through anything. The Romans used to eat them. I think it's the edible house mouse or something like that. But that Hertfordshire is famed, particular part where I live, for adders, snakes.
Yeah, they slither when they mate, don't they?
Adders. And I've seen them. I've seen adders, but it's mainly because we only have, I think, 3 breeds of snake in this country.
We do.
There's the adder, there's the grass snake.
That's a slow worm, though, isn't it? That's actually
more of a worm. Yeah,
no, you're talking about the slow worm, which is a legless lizard, because it's got that one. But there is another breed of snake that's only found on the South Downs. I think in I'm not sure if it's Dorset or Kent, but it's only found around that area. It can only survive around there. But the only venomous one is obviously the adder. Yeah. And there is reports early spring of people, they can't get out of the way in time because it's spring, being bitten by snakes round here. Yeah. I've seen adders. They're sort of small snakes, and they say snakes are more frightened of humans. No,
what they
couldn't give a shit, basically.
A lot of animals are like that. Ancient Ruby's just raised a point there about old Stinker in Hull. Yeah. That's another set of reports that goes back way into history. Yeah. And I know that at the moment the 2000 ones are in the papers, but the old Stinker tale actually goes back long through time. And Ruby said what she saw had hands And I want to point that out. Some people who make a report, like the one, we've got a recent one in Wales that's come in, and it's one that I'm working on at the moment. I was telling you about it.
Yeah.
And he described it as having a human body, but he's seeing it through brush. So he's not seeing everything. He's seeing it probably mid-height.
Yeah.
And he describes it as canine in origin. Not like an Alsatian or a German Shepherd, not that long, thin snout, more of a stubbed snout. And you do hear of that. Ears on top of head. And yellow, orange, amberish eyes, which comes up quite often.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you on his report if he's seen a dogman or a werewolf or whatever name you want to put on it. Because some of them have a tail, paws, backward dog legs, your typical dog stood up on two legs.
Yeah.
But what Ruby saw, what I call the wolf-headed men, has a man's body, and it's often said to have male genitalia.
Yeah.
But the head of a wolf, and that's sometimes described as a bear. So they snouted, not as long as a German Shepherd, but this snouted thing. Now, the one in Yorkshire is said to have picked up another dog in its mouth.
Alsatian,
over a 7-foot wall with it in one bound. And people say that's incredible.
I think it leapt over Bamston Drain, didn't it? Because it's called the Beast of Bamston Drain.
Yeah. And it's always been in the folklore, in the history of the area.
Yeah.
But people just laugh about it and poo-poo it. If you go to Kent and follow the coast all the way to Scotland, every single report you will get will be dog-like or canine in origin. Yeah. And I only know that because I take the reports.
Yeah.
So all of that northeast coast is dogman-like creatures that are reported. Werewolves, bipedal wolves, whatever name you want to give them. And there's a lot of flipping military bases along that route.
Interesting, yes.
Yeah. And then as we get to like the border of Scotland, we start to get these weird goat man reports, almost like horns on top of head, almost satyr or pan-like.
Yeah.
So half man, half goat or whatever. I don't know. Some people call them sheep squatch. There's a lot of names for them.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Hair covered with horns on top of head. And the only other place I've heard of that is Grimsby.
Right, yeah.
There are 2 other reports of a horned creature in Grimsby. But those people won't go public with them. I think Lee Solway has their reports.
Yeah.
He has their reports, and they won't go public with them, so we can't share them, unfortunately.
But these creatures some of them must be, as I say, coming in and out of our sense of reality, because I can't see a hairy 8 Bigfoot couldn't be living down in the southeast, because the overpopulation, you'd see it every other day. So it must be coming in and out. It's quite interesting.
I think it's following the river systems, as we said before, and the valley. Yeah. Look at the Thames Valley. Rather than look at the town, you look at the valley. So look at Lee Valley and see how many reports are there. And I think that are moving around our conurbations where we live. But there are reports, Chris, within towns, and mine's one of those. Deb herself was driving home when it happened to Deb.
Yeah.
And most of Deb's experiences happen when she's relaxed.
Yeah.
And I know that because I know her. She's my friend. Yeah. So when Debbie's relaxed and driving, I think she tunes in.
Yeah.
Because you picked up on that way before you saw it. Do you not? Will you share it, Deb, so the people in the chat can hear?
We've been over to the other side of York. We've been out with some friends, and I was drinking Coke. I wasn't bothered about a drink. Gaz got drunk, so we got in the car to come home. He fell asleep. I'm driving, and 7 miles from home. Well, I noticed that there weren't very many cars on the road at all. For early hours of a Monday morning, there's usually trucks, and the A64 from like York, the coast, right through to Leeds is busy. It's a dual carriageway. There were very, very few cars, no trucks. Coming towards Leeds, about 7 miles away, I started to feel a bit anxious. I don't get anxious, but I felt anxious. And then as I got to roughly 1.5 miles, 2 miles from home, it was like I was petrified, absolute. And I couldn't work out why. Tried to wake him up, no joy. Turned the radio off. And I was just like, I was gripping the steering wheel, and I came down the hill. And at the bottom, it goes over a little dip, and it's the Leeds-Liverpool Canal. the railway line to Skipton and the River Aire.
Right.
And they all run parallel with each other at the bottom. And as I hit the dip over, there's a cutout for a bus stop, and this thing was stood there in about 7 foot tall, 4 foot wide, and it was stood at the bus stop. And I knew that if I looked at it directly, I would die.
Right.
So I was watching it at my peripheral vision, and I put my foot down and I shot past. And as I looked in the rearview mirror, it stepped off the curb and into the road. And it was just this big, shaggy shape. I could tell that its eyes were boring into the car, but I couldn't see any eyes, couldn't see any limbs. It was just a massive shape. So of course, next day it was like I had to go past. My mum and dad had divorced, but I had to go past there to get to both their houses. And I was going up to see my mum, and I thought, because Gaz had said, "Oh, it'd be somebody in fancy dress." I couldn't get the key.
It's a tree, it's a lamppost, it's a post box. Yeah,
the whole thing. Somebody waiting for a bus at 2:45 in the morning. Anyway, I went back the next day, and as I went past, I looked, and there was where the bus stop was, all the bushes were held back by like a concrete fence. There was nothing that I could have mistaken that for at all. But as I researched, I was going to write a book on the paranormal of Leeds. I mean, this was 1993 when I saw this. And I decided because of this, I wanted to write a book. A few people on a site called Secret Leeds, I put my story on there, and a lot of people had said they've seen some really weird things around there. And if you follow the river course down, it takes you to Kirkstall Abbey. And a lot of people said it could have been like a monk wearing furs or something, but that I really don't think that.
To put my 2 pence in, I don't know that part of Yorkshire. Never ever been before. But I went to Deb's for a brew and a bit of cake, and we were going to Westshot Woods, weren't we?
Yes.
He's in one car, I'm in another. And we're driving, I'm with my husband, and I felt it as we was coming up. I went, "Oh no, it's there. Right there, that's where it happened. Right there, down that road," because that happens to me quite often. Yeah. And I said to Deb, "I don't know where it is, but it's right near that Abbey thing that we passed." And she went, "That's exactly it. That's where it happened." So there's like a Crowley thing going on there. Wasn't there be that weird temple?
Yeah, there was a little Temple of the Golden Dawn, which was part of Aleister Crowley's lot.
The energy was
Aleister Crowley. Yes.
Yeah, and it was old. It felt like like an old, damp, horrible coat that you wouldn't want to put on or wear. Like the worst thing you'd want touching your skin. It felt like that, Chris. It was like, oh, but I knew exactly where it was. It was like, it's there, right? It was just ominous. The feeling of it was ominous, and that was in the daytime, in the light.
Yeah.
So for that to happen at night, I couldn't even. I don't know.
Do you feel the temperature drop? Because I get very sensitive about the environment, houses.
Some people do. It happens to people differently. So for me, it's a feeling. It's a knowing for me. Yeah. I just know. I'm insistent. I know it. It's like someone shouting it down my ear. But for other people, it can be a smell. They'll say this smell, or they'll get a feeling at the back of the neck, or it'll be an anxiety feeling in the gut. It's different for each of us, but we're all doing the same thing. We're tuning into that energy, And once you trust it, like you said, and you trust your gut, that's easy and easy to do. It's like reading and writing. The more you do it, the easier it is. Yeah. It's easy for us because we're in the subject. But for that witness, that person that's just seen it, it's completely different for them. It's the chap I'm speaking to in Wales. There's certain things I can tell you, and there's certain things that I can't. So you've got that situation where you have played in a woodland your entire life as a kid. You've built dens there, you've done rope swings, you've rode your bike there, you've been in there with your mates. Never had a problem, nothing scary whatsoever. He gets to 2020 COVID and he's had an accident. So he's broken a number of his limbs. And as anyone, I've been in that situation. You just get stir crazy. You want to go out and you get a bit cocky. Once you start to get your mobility back, you get cocky. And his mate had said to him, "I'll take you back to Woods, get in the car and I'll take you," because he couldn't do the walk himself. And I said to him, "What was it like when you were in there?" And he went, "It was lovely. The birds were singing, the sun was out, it was really nice." I sat there and I'm thinking about all the things we did as kids down there and all these happy memories. And he notices the movement in the shrubbery. And as he looks, he said at the time, I thought it was about 12 foot tall. And it's this canine looking creature that's incredibly big across the shoulders, got these orangey amber eyes with very little white. And he said, what I concentrated on the most was its teeth, because I don't know if it was smiling or it was snarling, because I could see its canines. And he said, the words he said was, Chris, he felt scrutinized.
Right, yeah.
Just looked at him and read him and then just walked off. And he said, I can't go to work. I don't want to live in that area anymore. I don't want to live in that house anymore. I don't want to be anywhere near it. He has to come out of work and look at those woods. Yeah. And it only happened in 2020. It's really new for him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you think, how is he going to cope? How is he going to cope for the next 5 years coming forward? He doesn't want to work where he loved working. He doesn't want to walk where he loved walking. He didn't want to live where he loved living. And that's just from this quick minute experience. Yeah. And it's changed his life forever. Completely changed his life forever. And I just think that's the important bit. That's the bit we forget. We don't, because we're all witnesses. We're tuned to it, aren't we? We're used to it. So for him, it's incredibly new. So when I talk to somebody like that, it takes me right back. I remember what it felt like. I'm reading Ruby's messages as she's writing there, and every bit tallies with me. You never forget the description, ever. That description never goes. He said, it is burnt into my mind. That the image of that creature is burnt into my mind and I cannot get it out. And before that, he was incredibly skeptical.
Yeah. It says here, Ancient Ruby says, I still suffer to this day from that. And it was in 1975 I encountered it. 4 inches away from my face. I have never, ever got over it. And it was 100% flesh and blood. I'm shaking talking about it. I'm sorry to hear that, Ruby, but I'll tell you what you were saying about going back earlier about rivers, ancient rivers. This may link into what the show next week, where we're talking about people that in America in their huge parks going missing near rivers.
And the rivers, yeah.
They'll find a sock, or they'll find weird things where you get search parties, go out looking for them, don't find them, and then the person turns up exactly where the search party was standing.
Exactly, yeah.
Weird things.
Good story about that for next week.
Yeah, I've got some for next week as well. I'll do the Manchester push-up because there's over 200 cases in Manchester. Yeah. Ruby, if you need to speak to somebody and you just want to have a chat, even in private, just email me or Deb. Yeah? Because a lot will come back to you tonight and you might feel a bit off and you'll feel that energy again.
Well, hang on a moment. So for yourself, it will be BBR Investigations. You look up that, right?
Mine's all lowercase. It's just Debbie, will you type it in for me? Debbie Hatswell at gmail.com.
Hang on. Debbie, so it's DEBBIE.
Hatswell, HAT, SW, ELL. There we go. No, at gmail.com. I'm not Hotmail. I'm Gmail.
At Gmail.
Yeah, I've put you in as Gmail and I've put me as Hotmail.
Yeah. Get hold of me or Deb if you want to have a chat. It's fine if you don't want to have a chat, but I just want to give you the option.
Right?
Yeah, that's Bob on. Yeah, it's there if you need us. Yeah, and if it happens in a couple of days, you might think, yeah, actually, I will message one of them. Yeah, people think that they message me or Deb, they have to go on the show or something. Yeah. We do a lot of work in private because we're witnesses. We understand what it's like. Yeah, we probably had the same questions that you've had. Probably thought the same things that you thought. You know, we're all alike. And I'm hoping the chap in Wales, I can put him in touch with a few BBR members who have been in a similar situation for him and get him on. I've got a work call coming in. I'm not being ignorant, but it's just, I've just got to tell him to hang on. He's from Canada and he's waiting for me.
No worries. Mind you,
we're coming to near the end of the show now because we've been 2 hours. Yeah. And it's funny, I've got to go to the Lee Valley tomorrow, so that's going to be good, isn't it? Well, shall we actually wind this up now? I think, thank you very much, everybody, especially in chat about it. I'm sorry I can't read all your messages out, but we read them after the show or tomorrow morning, actually, because I'm a bit cream crackered. And thank you, everyone, and join us same place, same time next week, hopefully with Shannon from California.
Yes.
And remember, whatever happens, have a laugh. And remember to put your thumbs up and ding that little bell. Ding, 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 ding. And if you're watching this on BitChute, which will be tomorrow, do the same. Put the thumbs up. Hey, you know. So
when if you're going out in the woods, just carry a big stick.
I would say a Thompson submachine gun, but what you said, but it's illegal in this country, which is a pity, isn't it? You know, but yeah, because what can cure these things is with a small piece of lead administered by Smith and Wesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, both Debs.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to next week.
Yes.
And thank you, everybody. And remember, thumbs up and ding the bell. And also, you see, if you save us, 3 of us having to play the pen and paper outside the cinema, you know, sorry, there's no more cinemas, are there? There's
no, don't have them anymore.
Tesco's,
I think we can have them still.
Buy me a coffee below here. No, not my crutch, but just below in the comment section. Buy me a cup of coffee so we don't sort of go thirsty. But anyway, see you next week. And thank you very much. Good night.
Night.